tuatahi ki te kāinga o ngā mea I tēnei ao, tēnā koe. Ki ngā tini mate haere ki te waka, haere ki te wā kāinga, haere ki te kāinga tūturu o tō tātou mātua. Haere, haere, haere atu. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou ngā iwi o te Aotearoa, o Taranaki whānui ki te upoko te ika a Māui, kei te mihi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. Tēnā koutou ngā iwi, ngā hau e whā, I ngā rau rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Ko wai au, I te taha tōku pāpā, ko wheta mata rau te maunga, ko awateri te awa, ko heni rupi te hapu, ko Ngāti Parau te iwi. Ko tertiary tōku ingoa, he kai tohu taunaki tauira o te wānanga Aotearoa ki Papaioea. Nō reira, e riri ana te mauri kōrero o tāko ho haere Emma.
Nā mihi. Ko Alwi te maunga, ko Al te awa. Ko O'Brien te iwi, ko Woods te hapu, ko te Byrne te marae. Ko Pete McLaughlin toko tuatāne, ko Joshua Roa, ko Ben Okumahanga tuatahi. Ko Isabel Rawa, ko Rose Okumahanga tuarua. No Cornwall ahau, kei Pai Kakariki ahau e noho ana. He LLN advisor aho I te kei takiwa. Ko Emma McLaughlin ho toko e. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. So yes, I'm Emma McLaughlin. I am a language literacy and numeracy advisor for Te Kei Takiwa, and I work with my wonderful kohari, Barbara. Anyway, Kotahitanga, literacy and Rangahau in our bicultural social work degree program. So what we'd like to share today is ko waikoto. So who are all of we in this space? What is Rangahau for us? What is literacy? What did we do? What did we find? And our reflections on that.
So Kotahitanga has been captured in the whakatauki. E harataka toa I tō takitini, engari I tō takitahi. In essence, it is our collaboration between all of those involved in the Rangahau. And so who was involved in the Rangahau? Well, there was myself, there was Emma, but we also had the kaiako from the degree program and 65 tauira across the 4 years of the Ngā Pautoko Whakarara Oranga bicultural social work degree. And so Pohatu, the creator of degree program, states Kotahitanga is a part of a founding philosophy of the degree favouring a bicultural approach, positioning the deep thinking of Māori and non-Māori equally. Emma. Oh, it might be me. That's me. Okay, so Kaupapa Wānanga is within Kaupapa Rangahau. The Kaupapa Wānanga principles, kaitiakitanga, ahurutanga, koha and moriora. In essence, it is the collaboration between all those involved in the Rangahau. These takipu sustain the institution and all those within it. We can think of it like this. Kaupapa Wānanga drives our mahi, Kaupapa Rangahau drives our Rangahau. And so for us, the two are constantly weaving together.
So what is the Rangahau? So for us, and at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, it's not considered to be a specialised activity. And we really love that idea. It's our belief that Rangahau occurs every moment of every day within Te Ao Māori. It's naturally occurring activity. So as the rains fall and the sun shines, Rangahau is noa. So what is literacy? Well, as we know, literacy can be defined in many different ways from many different perspectives, whether it's Te Ao Māori, Pacifica, Western, functional, academic. But fundamentally, it's about reading, writing, listening and speaking. But reading could be reading tuku-tuku panels. It could be reading a journal article. In terms of writing, it could be writing with a pen, a computer, or as one of our lovely whakairo kaiako said, his tauira write with a chisel in whakairo. It can also be if we're thinking about listening to a waiata, listening to a lecture, and in kōrero it could be a karakia or a presentation. So basically, it's kind of a set of practices. It's what we do every day with all of these things. However, we also know it's grounded in power relations. We know that some literacies are privileged over others, and I think we've all experienced that. And we also know that a definition of literacy almost sets up a criteria of at any time who's literate, almost like a benchmark that we're measured against. So, Barb, what did we do?
So what did we do? Firstly, we gained insight and asked the pātai, what are the literacy practices tauira need to engage in? And then we already had a working relationship with our kaiko and our tauira, and so to avoid any assumptions, we reintroduced ourselves as kai Rangahau. This gave the tauira the freedom to choose or not to participate in the Rangahau, but continue to engage in the academic space. And it also informed our day-to-day practice and support to the tauira and kaiko.
Nice, thanks Barb. So what did we find? So first of all, we did find a range of tensions around the different literacy practices that our tauira need to engage with. So one of the key findings that across all 4 years of the degree, there were 36 different aromatuais. They kind of had slightly different names that our tauira needed to kind of familiarise with themselves with. And 21 of these was about writing different texts. We also found that it wasn't always clear what those texts required. So sometimes an essay, like on the kaiko nodded, sometimes the essay looked like a report, or the report looked like an essay, or a literature review looked like an annotated bibliography, or vice versa. So for our tauira, trying to work out, oh, what should this look like and how can I develop it, started to get a little bit confusing. A big thing, and this is a direct quote from one of the tauira, was the actual workload of writing. So sometimes, even though it was a presentation, there was still a piece of writing that needed to go with it. And I think one of the biggest findings for us was this quote that was repeated by many of our tauira, that they felt writing in the academic space started compromising their maoritanga. They felt like they lost their voice when they had to switch into an academic writing space. So Barb, would you like to tell us about the academic shadow and colonisation?
And so the term academic shadow is coined from Carl Jung's description of the individual shadow, or as Iwiko described it as the unwanted tenant. This is the intrinsic side of us that is informed by the external influences, events or experiences that tell us we are not okay. In the context of social work, education, the history of colonisation in Aotearoa cannot be ignored. It is the backdrop to a profound impact of low socioeconomic, health and education for Māori. The heavy influence of colonisation within the Western education pedagogies has Māori and non-Māori disadvantaged and struggle with the dominant literacies required to be successful in an academic system. And so we found, to dispel the intergenerational trauma that occurred within the classroom, we must adopt inclusion of cultural literacies to ensure equal opportunities for culturally diverse tauira.
So you can see we found a range of tensions, but of course we found lots of magic, because that's the way it happens at Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So we found that the tauira were already doing a lot of rangahau. What works for them? What strategies do they need? They did a lot of kōrero with whānau, with hohare, with other people to work out how to engage in these different literacy practices. And of course, our kaiako were weaving their magic too. So they were spending a lot of time breaking down and redefining the aromatuai, unpacking them, giving detailed feedback, working with templates. And we were all working together to address these tensions and support the kaupapa. So Barb, would you like to talk about how we work together?
So, Kotahitanga. So the 4 po, Māori Continuum, Ako Wānanga, Kaupapa Wānanga and the Kaupapa Rangahau, we consider are like a korowai that support the collaboration of diverse skills, knowledge and experience the kaimahi bring to support tauira to navigate the tensions and to develop their literacies practices.
Cool. So yeah, we have noticed tensions. There are challenges, and there is as well as the magic. But what we know, and this is the kōrero that comes back from lots of kākāko, they wouldn't change anything about the degree. They think the degree is beautiful, but they would change the aromatua. And what's even more exciting, and this came from a year 1 tauira, and basically she was kind of saying, how I learned social work, so she sees people who are social workers, they're higher positions than what she is, and she says their lens is not ours. I want to challenge their thinking. I want to challenge the way they're like, you know, doing things. So to me, that's indicative of a critical literacy that's being developed in a year 1 tauira, based on what she's already bringing to this space. So there are key tensions in the literacy practices needed for assessment, the academic shadow and the ongoing impacts of colonisation, but at the same time, our degree, our kaupapa, our frameworks are beautiful, and tauira are developing an Indigenous critical literacy. So our reflections, Barb.
And so, as we continue on our journey, we continue to reflect on Smith's statement. If we cannot control the definition, we cannot control the meaning of the theories which is behind the meanings.
Thanks, Barb. So there's 3 key next steps for us. So first of all, what is the meaning of literacy and literacy practices at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa? What are the practices we engage in, and what are the theories behind these? How can we develop Indigenous academic literacies that draw on, rather than sideline, the Indigenous and multiple literacies of tauira bring to this space? But also, how can we as an organisation develop assessment tools that capture all of that? So, our final partai.
And our final partai. As the literacy practices we engage in at Te Wānanga Aotearoa transformational for the whānau.
We believe that drawing on Kaupapa Wānanga offers a way forward in terms of addressing these tensions that arise when developing literacy practices, so that tauira feel their voices are validated, their maoritanga is upheld, and they develop an academic voice aligned with their Indigenous multilingual selves.
That's us.
It's really inspiring to hear the sorts of conversations that you're having around literature. I've always been a real challenger of what literature is, and really questioning what that is in terms of Indigenous ways of thinking about it. The beautiful quote by Moana Jackson, I'm not sure if we did, around the environment being a literature that we read. And yeah, it's really inspiring to know that we're thinking about these things in our practice and looking at solutions to how we can recognise them in the way that this is. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. Does anyone have a question that they would like to ask?
Oh, kia ora.
I just want to congratulate you, Kōrua. I know how hard you've worked on what you do with our takiwa around the literacy. Some real good pertinent questions here.
Well, we're all high,
Thank you.
aren't we? No, we hit.
Tēnā kōrua. Rite nei au ki wharepuka. Engari ko tapu mihi nei, ko tō kōrua tō koutou pakari ki te noho ki roto i te whare o te kaupapa matua. E noho nei tātou. Kai tikite, kai te rongo. So I really just want to acknowledge, and I know that it's not just on paper, I've heard you both talk about this in our wānanga, so I want to acknowledge you actually coming into the whare and using our own framework and paradigm, and not running out to some other whare Pākehā looking for it. E mea nui tērā, my only partai is your team of Rangahau, do they go across all takiwā? Because I would hate to see that this just sits in one takiwā. Because he rawe ngā kōrero, so I'm really interested on how it's going to disseminate through our movement.
Well, there's one of me in Te Wainga and 2 of me in Te Ihu. So yeah, there's not just me. But yeah, we're doing it in Te Takiwā, but we're all up for collaboration.
need.
We're up to travel.
Kotahitanga.
My boss will let me get on a plane.
Where is she? Good question.
Nā reira, e mihi ana kia kōrua. Thank you for your beautiful presentation today. It inspired all of us.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.